Worf's wedding on Star Trek. Deep Space Nine should have been a grand reunion. After all, this wasn't just any Klingon bonding ceremony. This was the warrior son of Mo, once of the USS Enterprise, joining lives with Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax, a host of centuries of wisdom and courage. And yet, despite the joy and fire of the moment, there was a glaring absence that no true Star Trek fan could ignore. None of Worf's old friends from the next generation came. Not Captain Picard, who had once served as Worf's Chidich and helped him reclaim his family honor. Not Commander Riker, who had stood by him during the court-martial, shared jokes and pain. Not even Geordi, Troy, or Data, those closest to him during his formative years aboard the Enterprise D&E. Their absence was more than curious. It was heartbreaking. And, perhaps, telling. On the surface, the explanation could be brushed aside as Starfleet logistics. War with the Dominion was escalating. The Alpha Quadrant was in flames, and the Enterprise E had its own missions. There was no time for weddings, no matter how significant the groom. But deep down, it wasn't just about duty. It was about distance, emotional, ideological, and personal. Worf didn't leave the next generation as a man fully embraced. He was always the outsider, the Klingon raised by humans, the Starfleet officer in a culture of warriors, the man who never fully belonged in either world. His transfer to Deep Space Nine wasn't just a new assignment. It was a quiet farewell to a family that never completely understood him. When he joined DS9, Worf found something he rarely experienced on the Enterprise, a command structure and crew that allowed him to lean into his Klingon nature rather than temper it. Captain Sisko valued his warrior's heart. Jadzia Dax, with her centuries of experience among Klingons, loved him not in spite of his rigidity, but because of it. In her, Worf didn't have to explain his code of honor. She knew it, respected it, challenged it. She wasn't like Troy, who tried to soften his fire. Dax sharpened it. The Enterprise crew were friends. But DS9? That was family. And family was who Worf needed on his wedding day. Not just because of the traditional Klingon rituals, the blood, the chants, the trials, but because of what Dax meant to him. His union with her wasn't a quiet Federation ceremony on the holodeck. It was primal, spiritual, and deeply rooted in Klingon custom. How many of his former crewmates would have truly understood that? Imagine Riker, smirking through the Ruastai. Or Picard, standing solemn and diplomatic while warriors roared and fought. Could Troy navigate the psychic swirl of Klingon emotion? Could Data compute the meaning behind a headbutt of affection? Maybe they could. Maybe they would have tried. But they weren't invited. That might sting. But Worf, for all his pride, is not a man of sentimentality. He is a man of decisions, decisive, sometimes cold. He didn't ask his former crew because, in his mind, that chapter was closed. The Enterprise was behind him. Deep Space Nine was his future. He was no longer Worf, the Starfleet lieutenant. He was Worf, son of Mo, poised to start a life with a woman who called him out when he was too stiff and kissed him with ferocity when the battle was done. In truth, the absence may have also been mutual. Picard, for all his paternal grace, respected Worf's choices but rarely understood his pain. Riker, while friendly, often saw Worf through a lens of curiosity, not kinship. Troy and Worf had shared something complicated and unresolved. Would any of them have come even if they were asked? In another timeline, a peaceful one, maybe they would have toasted Worf and Dax over blood wine, laughed with Martok, watched Odo dance with Kira. But that wasn't this universe. This was wartime. People were dying. The old rules didn't apply. The universe was changing, and so was Worf. In the end, Worf didn't need the Enterprise crew to validate his union. He had Sisko's blessing. He had Martok's brotherhood. He had Dax's love, eternal, fierce, and chosen. That was enough. But that empty space, the one where Riker's sarcastic quip should have landed, or where Picard's gentle nod of approval might have grounded him, still lingers like a shadow across the firelit room. Not a regret. Just a reminder. Worf had two families in his life. On his wedding day, he chose the one who saw all of him. Maybe, in the end, that says more about his journey than any invitation ever could.